So thank you so much for being here today with us. We are very happy that we got more than 170 registrants from different countries and different regions. So we are very, very happy that this is of interest for all of you. And hopefully this is one of the first webinars through these webinar sessions that we are going to develop based on your input through the registration process. And we hope that we will hear from you more questions and inputs through the event. So with this, I would like to give you the welcoming and then we will start with the PCB elimination experiences. Today, it will be more an interaction session in which we will explore some more broad concepts about the PCB management and different stages, right? But we will try to focus more on elimination experiences. But for those that are eager to learn more about technical aspects with a deeper focus, we will do that in next sessions. But today we will also provide some preliminary information about that and available resources so you can explore those. So for having a better idea of how the agenda looks today, I will start with this brief introduction of the webinar, but also talk a little bit more about our work and more technical resources that you can find online to go deeper into those concepts that you would like to learn more about. Then Mario, which is our PCB senior expert, he will talk about technical challenges and opportunities in PCB projects as we are working on those aspects from some years. So he will also cover other stages of the PCB management cycle, I would say, not only elimination, and then at the end, he will join Urs Wagner, another PCB expert in the expert session. But before, we will get a chance to hear firsthand experience from Ethiopia. We will have Mehari Wondimagan presenting from the Ethiopian EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, their case in the country as they have achieved many successful steps through this process, thanks to a project financed by the JEF. And then we will have the pleasure to hear Agustin Hart from the VRS Secretariat with practical information on PCV, ongoing work, and future work. And I would really want to thank all the speakers that are with us today. I know it's a very busy time for most of you, but I know the participants really value your time and commitment to the topic and your knowledge. And thank you so much for being here to share that knowledge. For the Ask the Expert session, as I said, Urs Wagner and Mario Mendoza will respond to some questions that we received through the registration process. And hopefully we will have some minutes to address those questions that you will send through the Q&A function. For the resources of these presentations, the presentations are going to be in English. You can find through that QR code, but also the link is on the chat. You will see the agenda, the survey at the end, and also the presentations that we receive. And for those that we do not have right now, we will upload them as soon as possible. So, so for you to have an idea, this is the many questions that we received from more than 170 participants. We received more than 25 questions in the registration process. So we know this is very important for you, and we really appreciate that you took the time to write those questions so we could kind of design this webinar in a better way for your purposes. So some of the questions, we cannot cover, unfortunately, all of them, right, in 1 hour and a half. We didn't want to make this longer because we know longer webinars are not so popular. So we will try to address those questions that we cannot address today in more webinars coming soon. So one of our main ideas today is also to collect your inputs, your insights to design better and more webinars in the future based on your specific questions. Some examples that I would like to bring for you to know what are others thinking about. How to dispose pure PCB oils? What treatment options are available? What is the cost of elimination per ton? What is the efficiency of certain technologies such as retrofitting? or what is where we can find a list of PCB eliminators, for example, or success stories in declination or in situ techniques. We also have people interested in things different than transformers, capacitors, or electrical sector. People are interested in open systems. Unfortunately, we're not covering this as a whole in today's presentation, but we can, of course, dedicate some special sessions on that if that is of interest of participants. Some others are more interested in the screening phase or the sampling or the lab analysis. And in these cases, we have received questions about the efficiency of an analyzer or the visual inspection, and some others are more interested in regulation. So in any case, if your question is not addressed today, make sure that we know that you are interested in this, and we will try to gather the resources and develop future webinars on these topics to cover your needs on this regard. And of course, we don't have the answers for everything, but the main goal of these webinars is to create this knowledge sharing moment and space for you to receive information from the experts and other peers as well. And with that, I will continue with my presentation very briefly because I know others will present more about that. I would like to share with you about our experiences with countries. We are working very closely with Ethiopia and the Gambia under two projects. And we don't do that alone. We do that with UNDP. In the past, we did that with UNIDO for Paraguay, for example. And most of these projects are financed by the DEF. And what kind of activities we do? We, as you can see in the pictures, conduct on-site visits to provide technical advice on temporary storage sites or elimination strategies, also laboratory capacities for those countries interested in building capacities for analysis of PCB samples. And there is a picture there about guidance manual, a technical manual on how to manage PCB, not only at a national level, but also at the facility level, facility management plans. So we coordinate and we cooperate very closely with companies and governments almost on a daily basis. And you will hear that from our colleague Mehari later on. And we are very happy and thankful for having the possibility of participating in some rounds of consultations under the Stockholm Convention and organized, led by the BRS Secretariat. So we participate in the SIWG, the working group on PCB that is working very much on inventory and reporting, and also the strategy for PCB management. Agustin Hart will cover some of these topics in his presentation. And I also really appreciate and I'm thankful I think that the chair was registered, and participants, members of this group are also registered, and I'm really thankful for that. And it's great to know that you are here to share also the knowledge and your contact details if that's needed. Same for the review and its assessment for under the Stockholm Convention, where we participated as one of the agencies that can provide somehow information about our ongoing work and how we see the global status. And this is also a possibility for us to keep up to date with these topics. Sorry if I'm going very, very quick, but I really want to hear from our experts later. And this is to show you that in any case, if you would like to go, as I said, in depth with some topics, we do have online and free information for those that do not nothing about PCB, and for those that are more knowledgeable and have some experience. If you would like to refresh some information, we are covering different aspects of the management stages, but of course we do have a module on PCB elimination. I will show you some examples of what kind of materials are there. And yes, this is not the only thing you need to know and to learn about PCB management. It's not only about training, but also contacting with the experts, working daily on different aspects and how to face and solve those challenges that we know are there in terms of administration or project management. But I will really invite you to take a look because it includes videos and presentations which are more visual, and you can see pictures, photos. As an example, I'm showing you here a module on PCB elimination. So we have two parts of the PCB elimination um, module, which is one about elimination strategy and the other about established technologies. And this is not developed by ourselves. It's also, I mean, yes, but it's based on official sources. That's what I mean. And one of the main sources of information is the training manuals developed under Basel Convention. But we are also working together with BRS Secretariat to try to upload our material and make sure that this is in line with the new developments under the expert working group that is that I already mentioned. And I see a question in the chat. These are free of cost, so you click on the module and you can download the materials. And this is the kind of approach that you can see, very clear visual slides and the step-by-step. In this case, I'm presenting how to select the best strategy and technologies. And there is one slide that, for example, is showing you a technology, and there are more technical explanation. And this is for you to know that if we are not covering that topic specifically today, we can do that, as I explained before, on a next webinar, or you can go to our platform that is in this presentation that you will find in the share folder as well. You have the link and the QR code. And with that, I finish my time now. I will pass, this is my contact details, but I will share that later too. I will pass now the floor to Mario, who will present technical challenges and opportunities. Thank you very much. And Mario, please, you go. Mario?
Okay.
Yes, great. Perfect. Yeah. Yes,
okay.
we can see yours. Yes,
you see my screen? Okay, thank you very much. Since we have a translation in Spanish, I prefer to speak in Spanish. I'm more comfortable in this case. Nosotros cuando estamos empezando un proyecto comunitario, lo primero que buscamos es integrarnos en las necesidades y en los objetivos que tiene el proyecto local, el país, de tal manera que podamos ayudar en sus metas. Generalmente estos están focalizados hacia buscar una legislación que les permita a ellos una herramienta de manejo de PCBs dentro de los países, tener un inventario, buscar un poco las fuentes que tienen potenciales para PCBs, y luego con esto tener un procedimiento que les permita a ellos identificar los PCBs de forma confiable para luego manejar los stock y hacer la eliminación o disposición final. Todo esto no es posible si no se fortalece también la capacidad interna, no solamente para el inventario, sino también para el análisis y finalmente la posibilidad de ver la eliminación de forma local. Por lo tanto, también buscamos la identificación de tecnologías de eliminación de PCBs y principalmente establecer una estrategia que les permita a ellos eliminar este contaminante. Por lo tanto, nos hemos encontrado con algunos desafíos que son, por ejemplo, una falta o una, digamos, incompleta legislación que puedan fortalecerlos. También podemos encontrar una base de datos que está no existente o está incompleta. Muchas veces también con una falta de disponibilidad de sitios para hacer el almacenamiento temporal de los equipos contaminados. el- hay una falta, alguna debilidad a veces en los conocimientos acerca de PCBs, y esto no solamente se ve desde el punto de vista técnico, sino también administrativo y a algunos niveles gerenciales que tenemos que ir cubriendo. Muchas veces el número de personas o el número de técnicos que están este, trabajando en las empresas y que están en contacto con estos contaminantes, no tienen el conocimiento suficiente, pero también no participan de suficiente número en los proyectos, tanto para la extracción de muestras como también para el descarte de PCBs, no solamente en participación de personas, sino también en la logística que involucra esto, eh, la disponibilidad de movilidad, disponibilidad de herramientas, disponibilidad de equipos para trabajar en campo. Eh, a veces también tenemos algún desafío de cubrir la necesidad de almacenar las existencias con PCB de forma temporal y buscar los lugares necesarios y estratégicamente ubicados para poder utilizarlos durante el periodo de los proyectos, y no solamente durante el periodo de proyectos, sino también después de los proyectos, porque una de las cosas que también buscamos es que los proyectos tengan vida propia. Y de esta manera, una vez que se termine el proyecto, debe continuar internamente en los países funcionando, para que de esa manera se alargue un poco el objetivo de los proyectos y puedan tener mayor alcance. Algunos de los otros desafíos que tenemos que enfrentar es los largos periodos que tenemos para la importación de equipos en algunos países, que dilatan el tiempo de ejecución de los proyectos. eh, y luego a veces la inexistencia o la falta de laboratorios que implementen el análisis de PCBs, no solamente en el país, sino también en forma regional, o su capacitación para analizar PCBs. Si bien es cierto, hay muchos laboratorios que pueden trabajar con algunas matrices como agua, aire, suelos. A veces para PCBs no es muy fácil conseguirlos. Finalmente, la, eh, li- el, el reto de buscar o la ilimitada existencia de tecnología local para eliminación. Ante eso, logramos tener algunas oportunidades entonces para revisar y completar un marco legal que sea apropiado para cada uno de los países. Los países enfrentan el manejo de sustancias tóxicas o sustancias químicas, pero bajo este término logramos entregar una estrategia que les permita a ellos manejar de mejor manera el tema de bifenilos policlorados. Eh, Igualmente, en cuanto a lo que es inventario, logramos de alguna manera involucrar a los técnicos de las compañías en el manejo de PCBs, y no solamente en la operación o mantenimiento de equipos que pudieran tener PCBs, sino también como una base para un plan de gestión en el futuro. De hecho, la participación de los técnicos en el inventario, no solamente en la extracción de muestras, sino también en el tema de descartes, logra resolver muchos problemas de gestión en el futuro, porque adquieren cierto conocimiento, cierta facilidad para poder trabajar con estos contaminantes. El entrenamiento, por lo tanto, de los técnicos para los equipos de detección han sido unas oportunidades que han logrado tener éxito en algunos proyectos, porque los técnicos ya tienen la posibilidad de trabajar en el futuro con sus equipos de detección o sus equipos de descarte que les permita trabajar cómodamente con PCBs. De otra manera, también se promueve la existencia de compañías que puedan especializarse en la identificación de PCBs. Como vemos, muchas veces es necesario la participación de la industria privada o de las compañías de asesoría privada que se involucren en estas actividades y a través de los proyectos pueden tener alcance al conocimiento que les permita prestar estos servicios para no solamente para identificación de PCBs, pero también para los servicios de mantenimiento de equipos que requieren un manejo y gestión de estos contaminantes. Por lo tanto, logramos de esa manera que los técnicos sepan identificar y sepan manejar los stocks de PCBs de manera cotidiana y tener también la disponibilidad de servicios para análisis análisis químico de PCBs, no solamente dentro del país, sino tal vez establecer algunos nodos regionales que podrían dar el servicio a nivel de alguna región o cubriendo la necesidad de varios países. De esta manera podemos establecer más apropiadamente la estrategia de eliminación para cada uno de los países de acuerdo con su realidad. Porque la eliminación de PCBs es una búsqueda de estrategias casi específica para cada caso. Con eso logramos de alguna manera, buscamos sembrar el conocimiento en los países de tal manera que podamos lograr una autonomía tecnológica buscando todo el ciclo del contaminante, desde la búsqueda, la identificación, la evaluación del alcance de contaminación que haya tenido, si es suelo, si son un número de equipos o qué tipo de equipos se están manejando, de tal manera que podamos contribuir al desarrollo de los países y no solamente en el sector eléctrico, sino integrando estratégicamente a los sectores y buscando su sostenibilidad en sectores tales como industria, transporte, energía. Esa es un poco la forma como nosotros logramos establecer las metas y los objetivos para cada proyecto y cómo integrarnos en los proyectos que participamos en esta búsqueda. Esto sería todo hasta este momento. Muchas gracias y adelante, Sofía.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mario. It was a really great introduction of the topic. And as I explained before, Mario will join us in a later session to respond some technical questions on elimination. So we now move with Mehari. Mehari, are you there? If you would like to share the slides, or I can share it from my end. So Mehari, he's the PCB coordinator, the PCB project coordinator in Ethiopia. We've been working very closely with them and UNDP together in this project under a JEF project since 2018. And this project has had faced some delays and problems, most of them related to the COVID and the pandemic. However, you will see how much they have achieved and how successful this is going. So Mehari, can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Excellent, Mehari. Welcome.
Yeah.
Do you want me to share your slides, or you're sharing your slides?
I can share from this so that I will manage.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it visible?
Yes, excellent. We don't see the slide mode. If you can,
okay,
the full screen mode.
Okay. Now?
Excellent. Thank you, Mehari. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. As a way of introduction, I am Mahari. from Ethiopia, project manager. Ethiopia. The project is hosted in Environmental Protection Authority, and the implemented entity is UNDP. With this, I will proceed. This is the presentation outline. I will have a background, project profile, accomplishment, challenge, and lesson learned. For those probably may not know Ethiopia is a country located in the Horn of Africa, and our capital city Addis Ababa, with population like 120 million as of 2023, and we have 1.1 million square kilometer area coverage. So this is probably for those background, and then we have electrical background, historical background. In those companies, in the old days, we have only one company, Ethiopian Electric Light and Power Authority, which was established in 1956. But later on, it is split into two, electric utility and electrical, Ethiopian Electrical Power. The electrical utility is for distribution and delivering the electric, and the power is for generating. But the third one is Ethio Engineering Group, major transformer manufacturer. The reason I brought these companies are, we have these companies who have PCB owners. We don't have any company outside of these companies. We own PCB. So these are our major. And as you can see, they do have around 42,700 distribution transformers currently on service. They have like 20,000. So you can imagine it's a very big companies. And then we are able to meet the Stockholm Convention implementation plan. What the second national implementation plan? Yes.
Dear Mehari, sorry. I think we are having some issues with the sound. Maybe if you have a mic, if you could put it like closer to your mouth, or like if you can get closer to the microphone. Thank you very much, Mehari.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So Ethiopia conducted two Stockholm Convention implementation plan. So in the second plan, PCB was the major in the action plan. PCB was the top priority. Based on that, we developed a project, which is GF6 chemical window. To your surprise, it's very small amount of money, $2 million. You can imagine we were handling like 42,000 PCB transformers with this amount of money. It has some problem with the design of the project. However, we try to do our best with the given amount of money. It is EPA, UNDP, UNITAR. It's a joint project. So UNDP, EPA, and UNITAR has a great role in developing this one. UNITAR has also the technical issue was dealt with by UNITAR. So UNITAR has a lion's share in managing the technical issue. As I previously indicated, EEU, AEP, and the engineering guard, this one, it was a 4-year project, but we requested 1 year cost extension. It is envisaged to have a second phase, but that remains to be seen in the subsequent years. You can see the objective was, first was the strengthening the national capacity of the stakeholders. So the capacity, the training has a major stake in implementing this project. Given the project capacity of the stakeholders, we expect to have 150 tons of PCB contaminated. That was estimated during the second national implementation plan. but there was no precise or inclusive data in having this one. So that's why we resorted to have this project and make inventories of all the transformers in the country. This is the background. This is the situation we are in terms of handling the transformers. This was identified during the second need inventory. So this was the very scary situation. This area is some places are very close to some streams, and then we have actually a lot of problems in dealing with this. The project has 4 components. One component was developing legal framework. The second one has developing the national capacity. The third one was environmental social management of the liquid, those in use and of service. The fourth one was monitoring and evaluation. What has been done, as you can see from the component, we drafted a directive on issue to phase out the PCB. So this we make the analysis review of the existing legal system. So we came to the conclusion we need to have a directive instead of a broad legal or proclamation, because the country cannot afford to have a proclamation for every chemical. So we resorted to have a directive, and this directive was approved by the Ministry of Justice, and so it's come in effect. And the second one was inventory of data of all transformers. As you can see from the previous one, the 42 transformers were inventorized, and then there is full information, the location, every necessary, and then this was a very success. But this data was obtained from the company, not from the project. The company made some asset inventories. So while they were doing the asset inventories, they come up with all transformers in the country, in location, in the capacity, year of manufacturing, everything was there. So the project was blessed to get this data. Otherwise, it was hardly possible to get this all information, even the $2 million US. So the companies have covered a lot of money in doing this. So having this, we created a well-organized database dedicated to these transformers. Every information that can make a sound decision-making was created. This was created in the IT staff's Environmental Protection Authority, where the project is hosted. Once we get this, UNITAR came to the picture, and they gave us a very essential training. That training, when we start, there is no any single idea, any clue about what to do with inventory, what to do with the sampling, what to do with the screening. So thanks to the staffs of UNITAR, Mario and Sofia, the technicians were equipped with very essential capacity. And the technicians also were very expertise, and then they try to capture everything in a very short time. By the way, this training was given during the COVID, so the training was conducted via virtually. It was very difficult to get such practical training in virtual, but we managed by having both way direction between the training and the trainees and the trainers. So we were filming some video how we were exercising, and then went to send it to UNITAR. UNITAR gave some comments. So with this, we managed to have the training, which is enable us to take a sample, to take a screening. But in the recipient end of the training part, there was practical sampling, practical screening were conducted. So that was a very nice screen, very successful training. And the technicians were also very good to grasp the idea. With this, we jumped to take a sample directly, immediately. We jumped to screening to take a sample, but we have some drawbacks in getting the sampling equipment, in getting the PPE during the COVID time. It was hardly possible to get PPEs and travel restrictions, all compounded. This has impacted the project at its initial stage. This has to be noted. This is a very, very critical area. With this, during the training, we have 3 categories. The low concentration, those PCBs with 50 to 500 ppm were considered to be low concentration, which are subjected to retrofitting. The medium was those PCB transformers with ppm 500 to 5,000, which was subjected to be treated by dechlorination, and those above 500 was designed to have incineration. This was our category, but fortunately, we don't have any PCB above 5,000. So we resorted to only dechlorination. And incidentally, the company was supposed to refused to have a dechlorination, but to take all the oils to abroad and to use the incineration. So we don't have any technical knowledge about the dechlorination because the company refused or was not, they opted for the incineration. So we don't have the dechlorination system, how to make the treatment using dechlorination. But theoretically, we had a good training on this aspect by Mario and Sofia. And then with this categorization, we proceed to categorize according to this. And then we have 42 and plus transformers. We created a criteria, and then the manufacturing year, those transformers produced before 1993 were suspected having a PCB. And those transformers which have no clue on the like plate name, it also suspected. So with this criteria, we had like 6,011 transformers that are suspected of PCB. So we happen to collect to the site, and while we are in the site, when we get the verification, we only get 2,236 because some of them we found them to be new, manufactured after 1973, although the data says no plate, but so we reduced them to 2,236 total samples collected from the field. You can imagine Ethiopia is a very large country, and then there was the management to collect this was a very, very difficult and challenging because the transport, the project had no its own vehicle. We were getting some assistance from EPA, but at its initial state, the promise was to get a vehicle from the electrical companies, but the electrical companies, they were consumed by their own daily routine, so they were not able to give us the vehicle. So it was a very challenging in having this sampling. And then once we get this one, we came to make analysis the LED 2000. By getting this LED 2000, this 2000 started by having the screening. Still, we reduced this one to 836. So first, we collect 2,236. We conduct the screening using the LED 2000, and then we finally get those positives to be 836. This 836 where further we do chromatographic analysis in the laboratory. And for the benefit of time, we only dealt with 273 because out of we have now 507 something not analyzed, but the 273 we get 160.5 ton of PCB. So this was enough to start the bid and the disposal, because we had a very small amount of money, like 600,000. So we opted only to deal with this one. With this, we proceed with the procurement of the service company. So this is the local laboratory. We fortunately have the capacity internationally accredited laboratory in the country. This was also a leverage to manage with this $200 million, because they did the analysis with a both the screening and the analysis with a very low cost. So we are grateful to the laboratory people. With this, another database was, while we are creating the PCB database, we have some, we developed national chemical registry system. So both within the database, this is a very successful story of the project, because it's not only dealt with the PCB database, but the national chemical registry system was developed. While this assistant was obtained from UNITAR. UNITAR linked us with the European countries, who by then was developing this national chemical registry, and the project implementing countries were accepted us, and then we are part of it, and then we have a good chemical registry system in the country. And the national PCB tracking system is in place because of the PCB. The companies now, from the companies, one of the criteria to get the PCB was to have, the transformer with the first criteria was it must be PCB free. So we have now this tracking system. With this, I will continue. And we also strengthen the national capacity of the Ethiopian Conformity Assessment Laboratory by supplying a huge amount of chemical reagents and other inputs. So this was a very good success. And also developed a communication strategy for PCB, but we a bit enlarged it to not only PCB, but for other hazardous chemicals, not to limit ourselves to PCB. So this is also one sustainable effect of the project. Now the company to dispose has already been hired, but it was very challenging in hiring this one. There was no expertise that can develop the procurement strategy, procurement TOR. That was very difficult, but thanks UNITAR, and at the same time the UNDP country office hired procurement specialists, and that procurement specialist was very highly expertise, and then she assisted us to expedite the procurement process. Otherwise, it could have taken like 6 to 1 year. It was very difficult issue. It was not like procuring other items. It has its own peculiar characteristics. So the specialist has helped us a lot. It's irreplaceable issue. And then the environmental social impact assessment also conducted for the project, and it was submitted. So we are now at initial stage to take for disposal. The company, they are now coming to make some assessment. There is something problem, but we are lagging anyway. We are now at initial stage for the disposal. They will come to the country to make an assessment, and then they will start the export of the chemical. The challenges we have was at the initial stage, no national capacity were in the country. There is no alternative, no single capacity. The very crucial issue was procurement of the chemical reagents. It took us a lot of time, like 1 year and plus. Because some companies, they refused to show up, and they didn't express any interest. So we are obliged to re-advertise it, and that take considerable time. Unlucky, in the initial stage, we bought all chemicals for the screening, but unfortunately, the chemicals, the expiry date was like 1 year or something. It expired before we collect the samples. That was a very challenging issue. We were obliged still to purchase another, because at the initial stage, we don't have any experience on this regard, but the chemicals, unfortunately, expired before. And then lack of capacity to conduct the gas chromatography in the national laboratory. The laboratory is capable in conducting the gas chromatography, but they face some problems in having the PCB. The methodology they developed, it was time-taking and resource-consuming procedure. And then there was one generous laboratory from Swiss, and the Swiss company, by facilitating through UNITAR, they give us free of charge training, and then once they show us the shortcut and the efficient way of analysis, that was the problem was solved. As I said, lack of expert in the procurement. It was delay of construction of storage facility. This is also one challenge. What we envisage now is the non-response of export notification countries, the Basel Convention. Most transit countries, they don't respond, they don't express the consent. So we have similar projects for DDT. So that project is facing, no country is expressing a consent for export for notification. That is a very challenging one. So for other countries, you can take this experience, start it as early as possible. We are also very unfortunate what is happening in the geopolitical landscape in Red Sea. Because of that, many shipping companies are refusing to take hazardous chemicals through the Red Sea. And this is also a very challenging one, because of the security situation in the Red Sea. There is no interest to take the hazardous waste across the Red Sea. With this, we have some lesson learned. National capacity was built. Laboratory have good, and every technician have. The national capacity is now in a good shape. We found it to work with a partnership and we are fortunate to get UNITAR in technical part in this issue. So we managed to predict ahead of time some problems, and then we solve it. And the National Chemical Registry System developed. Fortunately, we had a new legislation on chemical registry, and the system comes to being, and then the legislation system is going well. Early export notification letter, this is a good lesson. We have to notify countries as early as possible. Awareness is developed. Complete national PCB database. We have a complete national database in the country. With this, thank you so much. Thank you. I end my presentation.
So that's Mehari. Thank you very much. I really want to congratulate you and the team in Ethiopia, because we know you're working really hard, and as we could see in your presentation, this is a proof of that. Despite the difficulties and the challenges, you have a lot of successful stories to tell, and I'm very glad that you have a space to share with peers in this event today. I know that there are many very interested uh, in this project. So thank you, Mehari, and again, congratulations. And with that, I would like to give the floor to Agustin from VRS Secretariat. We will have a presentation from him. He will introduce a little bit of the practical information, ongoing work, and future work coming from the VRS Secretariat. And we really, really appreciate your time, Agustin. We are in we know these are very busy times, and we're very happy to have you here. So can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear. Thanks again,
Excellent.
Sophia and the whole UNITAR team for this invitation, and no problem. I'm always happy to share information on the work that we are doing within the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Convention Secretariat. I'm not able to share the screen yet because somebody else is still sharing.
Right,
I don't know what
maybe
to do.
can you try now, please?
I can do it now, yes.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, you can see the screen, right?
Yes, excellent.
Okay, I know we are ahead of time, so I'll try to be brief. And I know also that we have interpretation, so I'll do my best to speak slowly for the interpreters as well. Within the few minutes I have this very, very interesting webinar, I will briefly make some updates on the mandates that we have within, especially the Stockholm Convention on persistent organic pollutants, and also highlight some of the work that we are developing through the Secretariat, but also in support with other parties and experts. For example, the small intersessional working group on PCBs that has been re-established at the last COP and will be meeting soon to finalize the work for the next COP. But before I go into the activities, I know I will go through quickly these slides. I'm mostly sure that everybody is familiar to the Stockholm Convention, but of course, just to highlight that there are a few articles within the Stockholm Convention that established that parties have to take measures to reduce or eliminate releases from intentional and unintentional production of certain chemicals. We call them POPs, persistent organic pollutants, and PCB has been listed as a persistent organic pollutant since the beginning of since the entry of the force of this convention. And specifically on Annex A, Part 2, there are some targets and deadlines that the convention has established and that parties have committed to fulfill. The first one is that by 2025, parties should have identified, labeled, and removed from use what we call phasing out the use of the PCB equipment, especially on electric equipment such as transformers, capacitors, and other types of electric equipment as well. And by 2028, make determined efforts to guarantee the environmentally sound management of PCB waste, including, of course, PCB liquids and contaminated equipment. And there is also a small provision that some countries have addressed, some others have had bigger challenges on also identifying and managing articles that contain PCB in what we call open applications, such as paints, cables, etc. So this is also addressed under the Stockholm Convention. And the Stockholm Convention also provides some prioritization criteria, for example, one on the concentration, and of course, as we see other transformers filled with pure PCB, with high concentrations of PCB content, those are, of course, the most risky transformers that can have impact on health and the environment and have to be addressed first. And of course, technologies and disposal facilities will have different capacities depending on the kind of equipment and technologies that they're implementing to deal with high concentration or low concentration. And we heard the example today on PCB that could have been dechlorinated, but the final decision was to export it for incineration. And again, also on the prioritization criteria to avoid impacts on health and the environment, the Stockholm Convention establishes certain areas of interest or hotspots such as schools, hospitals, food production, and processing places that if a transformer with PCB is close to that should for sure be prioritized. So many countries have, when establishing their regulatory frameworks, had taken these or other criteria to establish their action plans and their working programs so that they can prioritize highly concentrated or PCBs in sensitive areas. And then, of course, the Stockholm Convention has many other articles with specific provisions, such as on technical assistance that requires the Secretariat and parties to, in a capacity to do so, to support not only technically, but also financially to developing countries to fulfill these obligations and these objectives. Article 7 on the development and updating regularly on the implementation plans, and specifically for PCB, there's a provision that usually is fulfilled by developing or updating their national implementation plans, the famous NIPs. There's also an obligation under Article 15 of reporting. I will discuss this a little bit into deep as well. And finally, assessing if all these actions and all these obligations under the convention are fulfilling the objective of reducing the releases to the environment and protecting human health and the environment. And for that, we have this ongoing process on the effectiveness evaluation. And we just seen the last report where call for accelerated action was on PCB and on other chemicals as well was done. At the last COP in 2023, so a year or so, there was a specific decision. We always have a decision on PCB, usually, with call for action on several aspects. But just wanted to highlight, and you can access the whole decision through our website. I will leave the link in the chat in a minute, to address PCBs in open applications, to develop, update, and maintain national PCB inventories, to enhance the reporting. I will say a little bit more on that in a minute. And of course, to cooperate and synergize with the Basel Convention on control of transboundary movements of hazardous waste and other waste. And we just heard the challenges that Ethiopia had when waiting for the responses for the transit countries. So there's a lot of work under the Basel Convention to enhance the notification process and the peak procedure so that this can also be accelerated. Going back to the issue on national reports, just to highlight that this is the main source of information that the Secretariat that we have to assess progress and to look at the challenges that countries are facing. Unfortunately, the rate of reporting in each round, so the national reports under the Stockholm Convention is every 4 years, has, more or less, if you do an average, is 50% of parties that have been able to submit their full reports. So we are encouraging parties to do this, even if it's late. The last national report deadline was 2022, and the upcoming one will be in 2026. So we are encouraging parties to already start thinking and working on getting the right information so that the 6 national reports can be completed in time. And if you also have the opportunity, you may also submit all reports to fulfill those obligations. And from those national reports, there was a report that was presented at the last COP, and many of you may have seen these figures already, but I think they are quite enlightening on how much progress has been made so far. Because we know that there's a lot ahead and we still have a lot of PCB to deal with, but it's also important to recognize the efforts from developing countries, from the developed world, also within the financial mechanism to deal with PCBs. So these are the amounts of PCB that have been eliminated locally every year per region. And just to highlight that only 41 countries have reported that they have local capacity, so national facilities within the national territories to treat PCB. And most of these cases are to treat PCB in low concentrations, but basically the chlorination and other techniques to clean up the equipment. And if you see the amounts eliminated reported in each region, Western European countries for sure have done almost 2/3 of the total elimination at the local level. This could be by different reasons. One, of course, is the lack of technologies and lack of disposal facilities in other developing regions. Another one is the lack of reporting. We know that some other countries have developed within projects or other activities, local capacities to treat PCB, and we haven't received that information yet. And of course, in other cases, another convenient opportunity has been to export this PCB to be disposed safely in another country. So when you look at the exports, you can also see that most of the amounts that have been exported also is coming from Western European countries and others. And if you look at where does this PCB have gone, well, it has gone mainly into 4 or 5 countries in Europe, Germany, France, Belgium, and others that have provided technology and received PCB waste from all around the globe. So Basel Convention plays a key role here as well. Regarding the financial mechanism, you may know that the Global Environmental Facility, the GEF, as we know it, has the mandate to support parties, recipient parties to fulfill their obligations and implement the actions required to meet the targets under the Stockholm Convention. Throughout the life of the convention, at least 110, 111 projects have been established at the national level, at the regional level, global level, and more than 120 countries, around 126, if I recall correctly, parties have been supported with financial contributions from the GEF. And this includes enabling activities, development of, or updating of national implementation plans, which usually include updating of on their PCB inventories and development of action plans. Many countries have implemented PCB-focused projects, which, and I like the table that was presented by Mario, because they was addressing the main issues that any project faces, developing regulatory frameworks or enhancing them, updating or developing PCB inventories, building capacity within the national authorities, local authorities, the energy sector, and all the stakeholders. Some countries even have bought or implemented technologies at the country level, and we have seen several countries with good experiences on technology transfer there. And of course, many projects have been used also to fund the disposal or the treatment of PCB equipment and PCB waste. Another more general projects focusing on POPs, industrial POPs, or even hazardous chemicals have also indirectly targeted PCB as one of the main global environmental benefits. And I'll go quickly on this one, but just to mention that to assess the trends in the environment and health of the POPs, the Stockholm Convention has established a global monitoring plan, the GM, as we call it, GMP. And we just published as well last year the 3rd global monitoring report, and we are starting the GMP4, which is a 6-year-old cycle, 6-year cycle, where we, from places all around the world, samples are taken to determine the levels of POPs in the environment, in human milk, in air, in water for some pollutants, and to assess whether these trends, these levels are going down or not. So for PCB, this has been the results have been different in each region. We have seen in air and in core media a decreasing trend in several regions, but for example, on places where open burning on waste issues or other sources of pollution, that might not have been the case. For human tissues, we also have seen decreases on PCBs and dioxins and furanos as well. For example, in human milk, and they have been going down, but they are still they are in levels that can still affect health. So we need to continue that work. And in biota, because these chemicals persist and accumulate in the food webs, we have seen many examples of scientific studies that have identified high levels of PCBs and many other POPs in big mammals, such as whales or polar bears. So we go quickly here because Mario described very well the challenges on PCB environmentally sound management. From the Secretariat, we're working on what we consider the main 4 challenges: enhanced capacities, the access to disposal solutions, the access to or the need to have better PCB inventories and to know exactly how much PCB and where it is located, and of course on sustainable funding options, because we know that the GEF money won't be enough to deal with all the PCBs, and other opportunities for funding and streamlining the available resources is also important. For this, the European Union has generously contributed to the work of the Secretariat, and we started implementing a project which is called the Global Cleanup to meet the 2025 and 2028 targets under the Stockholm Convention. And we have done through the years several activities focusing on those 4 challenges. We are doing regional workshops, and the 4th regional workshop that is planned for Asia Pacific region will occur in October in China. But we have already engaged with around 40 developing countries, which is an interesting number, both discussing with the Stockholm Convention focal points, but also the Basel Convention focal points. We have received a part of the contribution to update all the existing guidance on PCB under the Stockholm Convention, the one on inventories, the strategy for phasing out and elimination of PCB, plus other documents that were all within the Secretariat. We are developing an assessment on the capacities at the regional level and at the global level to meet these targets, including identification of companies that have technologies to treat PCB, regulatory frameworks within the national governments, etc. So this is a report that will be available at the next COP next year. We are also supporting parties directly through pilot projects. We are implementing at the moment 9 pilot projects in the different countries from different regions. Some of them have already started. And the main activity here is the data validation. We really want to know how much PCB is out there so that we can then do the needs assessment and we can know exactly what kind of support from the financial mechanism, from the Secretariat and from others is still needed. And we are working as well with the investment banks such as the World Bank or regional banks such as the European Bank or African Development Bank, Asia Development Bank to develop options to also catalyze other types of investment. For example, for the replacement of equipment, which the amounts there are very high, but there are so many initiatives and loans and other opportunities on investment on the energy sector that will also address the issue on PCB. So we're working with all of these partners to have this established, and we are working with the GEF to streamline the money that is available within the GEF to support parties. So not yet concrete, but it's a proposal that we are working on to establish or develop a global program on PCB elimination within the GEF. And that will be considered at the next council in December, so we will have news very soon. Finally, and I know I exceeded a few minutes, sorry for that, Sofia, on the work of the Small Intersessional Working Group, just to mention that it was reestablished at the last COP, and the main mandate was to update the existing guidance under the Stockholm Convention and support with their expertise, the Secretariat activities for developing countries to meet their targets. We have 16 members of the Small International Working Group so far, and a few observers. UNEP, UNITAR, a couple of regional centers, and a couple of organizations representing civil society and the industry. And apart from updating the guidance, the Small International Working Group has supported the Secretariat on implementing and providing also expertise on implementation of the Secretariat activities. They will now work on the recommendations for the next COP in 2025. So the last meeting of the group that will occur in October here in Geneva, Switzerland, will be crucial to discuss what are the next steps for PCB on the international agenda. And these may include, for example, a discussion that is ongoing to update and revise the reporting formats of the Stockholm Convention, to include further information and to clarify a few points that have been misleading in the past, and to also continue their work for the next biennium to develop the report on progress on PCB elimination by 2027. And this will be key because the first target 2025 will be done. So this report will actually assess whether the target has been met or not and how much progress has been done so far. With that, I would like to thank again UNITAR for their invitation, and I'll be happy if there is time to respond a couple of questions. I saw in the pre-session questions, very interesting questions, so it will be great to have a minute to share. Thank you, Sofia.
Thank you very much, Agustin. It's fine with the time because I didn't want to stop you. It was very interesting, and I know that participants were waiting for that session too. So thank you very much. And now I invite Mario and I invite Urs to join. These are PCB senior experts, and we are very thankful for your time and commitment. And I also invite Agustin and Mehari, the previous speakers, if you would like to stay in this session. We have prepared a pool of questions that we received through registration. So we will dedicate some minutes on those questions. I have a presentation with those questions, but first I invite Urs, if you would like to introduce yourself. Mario has already done it, so please, Urs, go ahead while I share the screen.
Well, good afternoon, respectively. Good morning, everybody. Some of you might know me as I'm dealing since about 40 years with PCBs, and it seems that I started with the topic of PCBs and I'm going to end my career with PCBs, but unfortunately, the problems are still not solved despite the deadlines are coming very close to us. So I'm very grateful, first of all, that UNITAR is organizing this webinar, and secondly, that you all participate and obviously try to assist in solving the PCB problems. Mario and I picked a couple of questions out of the many very interesting and also important questions. Due to the time factor, we cannot answer all online, but of course, Sophia will take care that you will get all answers to your questions. And in addition, she will also share some links to training material and further information material. I hand over to Mario, and if I'm not mistaken, we are going to take 4 questions to Mario, to me, to start now this session.
Yes, thank you, Urs. Yes, exactly. So there are 5 on the screen, as you can see now, because I added 1. The first one is, where can the participant find more information? And that, of course, I will share the links, official links of the VRS Secretariat, links to our training materials, and other sources of information that you might find very useful. So you will find that information on the chat, but also we will share and publish a document after this webinar, not only in our share folder, but also in the PCB learning platform, with the responses to your questions and the materials that were presented today. So with that, I don't know, Mario, if you would like to take the floor with the first question, or Urs, please feel free.
Gracias, Sofía. Bueno, aquí hay una pregunta que habla sobre la disposición de puro PCB. Mire, aquí hay un parámetro que es importante tener en cuenta, que es el costo entre lo que podríamos decir dos tecnologías que son más usualmente aplicadas para eliminación de PCBs, que es la declorinación y la incineración. La declorinación tiene un costo que se incrementa de forma directamente proporcional a la concentración que tiene la matriz. Diríamos que debajo de 5.000 partes por millón la declorinación resulta ser más conveniente. Por encima de 5.000 partes por millón, el costo de incineración suele ser menor. Esto en términos promedio. Hay variaciones, hay cosas excepcionales, pero en términos promedio, encima de 5.000 partes por millón, la incineración resulta tener un costo menor. Esto nos da una línea para decidir qué hacer con aceites puros, con puro PCB. Entonces, por encima de 5.000 ya consideramos que tiene una gran concentración y por lo tanto, la disposición de aceites con PCB puro es la incineración. Y se dispone en unos incineradores que llegan a una temperatura de 1.300 a partir de 1.300 grados centígrados con 3 segundos de permanencia para no generar otros componentes como dioxinas y furanos. Resulta ser una opción interesante. Sí. No sé si quisieras responder a otra pregunta.
Thank you,
Yes, I
Mario.
just would like to add about the disposal of pure PCB oils that the history really proved that pack and ship, as I call it, is usually the best option for pure PCB containing material. However, please remember what Mehari talked about lessons learned. Usually it is not, the tricky issue is not the incineration itself, but the transportation to come there. As we learned, there are many hurdles to take, whether it is transportation or notification process, etc., etc. Now, the next question would be also an important one. Is there a quick way or mechanism that has been developed to conduct a visual inspection? Well, the topic of this webinar is elimination. And of course, towards the deadline, that's our main target. But the very, very first and most important step to achieve elimination is inventory or PCB assessment. And obviously, a visual inspection is the first step towards doing this. So it is an integrated part of a preliminary inventory, because in many companies or countries, there is lack of information, technical data about transformers or a maintenance history. So therefore, a visual inspection is important. And for instance, a nameplate on a transformer may provide certain information, but please be careful because a transformer is not hermetically sealed. So it is always possible that there was a topping of oil, or there was a retrofilling, or there was a maintenance. And by that occasion, the transformer might have got contaminated. So we cannot trust just the information we see. We do need further steps like a screening, like sampling, like analysis. It might be different with capacitors. And please take this message. We usually talk about transformers and oil, but we do not talk enough about capacitors. And we have high voltage, medium voltage, and low voltage capacitors. Some of them might be very small, but may contain pure PCB, and we have to find them. And usually there, we can trust the information on a nameplate, because these devices are hermetically sealed, and therefore we can take this information usually without further verification by analysis into our assessment or inventory. There would be much more to be say about this issue. I'm very glad to respond further questions to that, and I would like to highlight also that I believe today, Sophia, there will be a guideline, a revised guideline published, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe I can invite Agustin to provide with some updates since the expert working group, we are updating the guidance on the inventory. So it includes a section that describes the visual or optical inspection as part of the process. So maybe Agustin, you would like to complement with more information? I think the documents will be published very soon, right?
Yes, when it will be published, hopefully tomorrow. It will be open for public comments. Is the updated guidance on development of PCB inventories plus the strategy for parties to meet the 2025 and 2028 targets. So they will be open for public comments by the parties, stakeholders, and other stakeholders as well, observers as well, for a month. So you will have a month until the end of September to present your comments in written. There's a format for any interested party to send their comments, and those will be the final comments that will be considered by the expert working group to finalize the guideline. This is a very important opportunity because it has been a long time since everyone seen these guidelines. There have been many updates, consequential updates and an enhancement of several sections, including the one on visual inspection and other types of identification of PCB in equipment. So it will be a great opportunity for experts such as Urs, Mario, everybody's invited, Unitar as well, to provide their comments, their views on how this guidance can be enhanced and can be made more practical so that parties can actually use them, and can also develop or enhance the regulatory framework so that these things can be included within the regulations. So they will be up tomorrow, maybe 2 days. There will be an open notification to everyone, and you will be I already left the link on the PCB section on the Stockholm website, so you will find them there as well.
Thank you, Agustin, and thank you, Urs and Mario. So who would like to take the next one? We can address destruction by incineration. Sorry, dispose. Oh, sorry.
Sí, Sofía, la temperatura de incineración creo que ya lo habíamos anotado en un momento, 1300 grados es suficiente para destruir PCBs, pero quizás hablar un poco sobre los costos de eliminación de PCBs que están asociados al proceso de eliminación, y aquí lo que podría comentar es en líneas generales que antes de pandemia se manejaban en realidad el costo de eliminación tiene que ver con muchos factores, ¿no? Primero la concentración del residuo, el lugar donde está el residuo hasta el punto de tratamiento o eliminación, la ruta que va a seguir, etcétera. Hay muchos factores, pero en líneas generales, antes de pandemia se manejaban unos precios que van de 5 a 7 dólares por kilo, tanto para declorinación como para incineración o exportación de productos. Estos costos han ido subiendo durante pandemia debido a las restricciones, debido a los problemas de transporte, y quizás en los años 22 o 23 han tenido unos picos que llegaban hasta 9 dólares por kilo. Sin embargo, los últimos 2 años tienen una tendencia a ir reduciendo a costos prepandemia, y más o menos manejamos un presupuesto de ese margen, ¿no? De 5 a 7 dólares por kilo. Pero es importante saber, cada caso es especial, cada caso se tiene que analizar específicamente. Y depende mucho de la situación, de la concentración, del lugar donde se encuentre y la ruta que se quiera seguir, de la disponibilidad local para establecer una planta móvil o no, o se va a hacer un tratamiento compartido, un refilling en país y una exportación, etcétera. Cada caso es especial y se debe analizar. Urs.
Yes, indeed. So I continue with the question about the screening equipment like the L2000 analyzer or the chlorine oil test kit. And here probably I should just recall the history. These systems were developed by the EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute in Palo Alto in the United States, together with a company called Dexel, and usually is known nowadays as the manufacturer of these test kits. And the basic idea in the late 70s was to reduce the time factor for waiting for laboratory analysis, to reduce the cost factor, and also to make it suitable for oil and soil screening. But now you probably realized I mentioned screening. So it was never the intention, nor it is today, that L2000 or chlorine oil systems would replace laboratory analysis, simply because these technologies are focusing on the fact that no other source in oil of total chlorine content is other than PCBs. So we do not analyze the PCB itself with the screening methods. We look for the total chlorine content. And therefore, as I mentioned, it cannot replace the laboratory analysis. It was very interesting, again, to listen to Mehari about the Ethiopian experience, because he mentioned today that initially from 6,011 transformers, they were able to reduce the amount of samples to be analyzed in a laboratory to 2,236 samples. Sometimes even more is possible. But this really shows one of the advantages of this system. And it also demonstrates that they were able to do it with own technical staff in Ethiopia. They did not need any consultant or whatsoever, because it is quite easy when you know how to handle these issues. And also sampling of transformers, you need anyway technicians. So there would be much more to be said about that issue. I just can recommend to anybody to consider these kind of systems as a part of the PCB assessment steps.
Thank you very much, Urs and Mario. If you allow me, we have a couple questions on the chat, but unfortunately, as we are a bit beyond the time of this session, we will collect these questions and we will make our best efforts to address them, as I said, in future webinar sessions or in a document that we will share with the necessary resources of information. I think that somehow the question about optical inspection, visual inspection, I think comes from Francia. Somehow will be answered, but this new guidance that will be published, updated guidance that will be published by the BRS secretary, but we can also provide more information if needed. And there are two questions coming from Catherine about the process in Ethiopia of sampling, the collection of samples, and then the process of the treatment process. So we can work together with Mario to respond on that one, those two questions, which are very related to our project. Maybe we can take the last one. It talks about the chlorination of oils about 5,000 ppm. So there is a question if it can be used to discontaminate oils and keeping like an economical feasibility. I think this is just something that Mario mentioned before. Mario, would you like to add some more insights on this technology above the concentration of 5,000 ppm? just to take a look. It's the last one in the Q&A.
Sí, 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 gracias, Sofía. Sí, encima, en realidad, teóricamente, el proceso de clorinación se puede aplicar a más de 5.000 partes por billón, porque la tecnología, teóricamente, la eliminación química se puede dar. Es más largo, sí, el proceso va a ser más largo y más costoso. Entonces, definición y la decisión se toma por el lado de costos. Sin embargo, hay casos en los cuales se han declorinado, declorinado químicamente transformadores que son muy especiales, que son muy grandes, que son fabricados con unos parámetros eléctricos muy específicos, que no es fácil reemplazarlos por varias razones, en los cuales, a pesar de que tenían más de 5.000 partes por millón, se han hecho la declorinación y se ha hecho una declorinación igual a una diálisis, que es un reciclaje del aceite dentro del transformador y ir eliminando PCB progresivamente. El costo va a ser mayor, sí es cierto, pero debido a estos casos específicos han tenido que ser utilizados. Entonces, encima de 5.000 partes por millón en general, es más económicamente beneficioso eliminar vía exportación.
Excelente. Muchas gracias, Mario. Oh, sorry. I just changed naturally from English to Spanish, as that's my language. So thank you very much, Mario and Urs, for your time. I would love to stay here and listen to your responses. So we will have more sessions on this topic. So we will be very glad to have you again in the future. And with that, I will finish the session by providing you a QR and a link to a survey, because we really want to know if you liked the approach, if you liked the webinar, if you have any topic to propose for next sessions. We will share these on the chat too. So please, we really value your feedback. And you can also, as I said, include topics or any open comment that you have about the event. So thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, the speakers, Agustin, Mehari, Mario, Urs. Thank you very much for your participation. And of course, the interpreters, because they have done a great job today. This is the first time we tried English, Spanish, and French, and I think it was a good experience. So we really thank you for all your work. And yes, with this, thank you very much. We'll see you in the next session. Please do not forget to complete the survey.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Take care and
Thank
go
you.
against the PCBs.
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Bye-bye, Urs. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for the invitation. Good luck. See you
Thank you.
soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Hey, yeah.